much of her stuff.
Oh, all right. Hi guys, I am Latoya Gray, and I am the principal at Summit Hill Elementary, and I am looking at, or I did some study on Lucy Calkins versus the guided reading, and how it impacts our student growth. So a little bit about Summit Hill. We have 721 students. 37% of them are talented and gifted. 13% are students with disabilities. We only have 4% considered low income. We are 80% Caucasian, and the rest is a minority population. Okay, we are 48% female and 52% male, so pretty balanced there, which is awesome. A little bit about the background and my why. When I came to Summit Hill about 2.5 years ago, walking in and looking at the data, just glancing at it, you would think, awesome, I've like hit the jackpot. I'm at a school that's, you know, high performing. We are doing amazing things here. Until we actually pulled it for 3 years to see that it's actually been the same for about 3 years. Okay, so this year, our 16-17, we did have a slight increase in ELA. Roughly about 77% of our students performed at the proficient and above distinguished grade levels in English language arts, and in math we had, I think that says 71. So we had about 71%. Okay, so that still leaves roughly though 25% of our students that are below grade level, and is just unacceptable to the community, and also really for the schools that we're competing against. So having that conversation with students, actually with teachers, not students, we looked at some growth bubbles. So in SLDS, I'm not sure if you all have ever seen this chart. It's one of my favorites. It actually creates a bubble for each teacher in the grade level. Okay, and so I presented this information to kind of look at where we were. You basically have 4 quadrants of growth. You are either high achieving with low growth, or you are high achieving with high growth. You could be high achieving with low growth, low achieving with low growth, and then low achieving with high growth. Okay, so as you can see, in both 4th and 5th, we are more to the left, which is on the low growth side, whether they are high achieving or low achieving. So that was kind of the start of our conversation, which was great. However, it didn't quite motivate my staff as much as I thought I would. I'm a little competitive, so I thought that, you know, surely we would want to see, you know, ourselves over here a lot, but not the case. So we keep looking a little bit more. So our problem when we kind of pulled everything out, and we looked at it by subject, ELA, and math, and we also looked at it 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Okay, so we looked at the data 2 ways. We looked at it by achievement, meaning we just went from year to year to year. We didn't necessarily change, you know, we didn't care that the student population had changed. We just looked to see where our percentage is going up or down. As a teacher, what is your instruction looking like? Are you able to perform at the same level from year to year to year? And the answer is pretty much no across the board. And 2015 was actually the first year, and we didn't do too bad on that year, considered we just came off of the CRCT. But since then, we have kind of, 2016, we went down pretty much in every area, and we started making our way back up in 2017. We also looked at it diagonally to say, for the students that were in English language arts in 2015 and made an 80%, how did they perform in 2016, which was 69%? Oh, shoot, I did it too. And then how did they perform once they got to 5th grade? Oh, I thought I did it one more time because I touched it a little bit. So, you know, when we look at that, it really provided 2 opportunities for conversations. It allowed us to talk about teacher instruction, okay, and what are you doing? Did you do anything differently? Did you have to try anything differently? What were your programs? And it also allowed us to look at our student group. Sometimes you do get a rough batch, right? My 5th grade group this year is a rough batch, so who knows what my scores are going to be. We're not that excited about it, I must say, but we're prayerful. So as we looked at that, there was a difference. If you look here, 2017, we got 76%, 78%, and it goes on down, even 58% in 5th grade for science and social studies. And that's like, I mean, those are double-digit gains from the year before at 39%. Social studies is supposed to be like the easiest subject, so what are we really doing, folks, right? But they were stuck on this number here, the 93%, the 91%, but that includes our students that are developing. Developing is not proficient. And parents do expect that our students are able to be proficient. I expect that our students are proficient and can actually read. We only have 13% of our students that are students with disabilities. So there's no reason that there's a 25% difference between what we're actually seeing in our performance. The other part of our conversation was our growth. Okay, and I heard it, his presentation was talking about growth. You all, did you talk about growth a little bit? Somebody else talked, yes, there you go. Sorry, I was like, yeah, that's a problem. So we are not growing. If you look from 2015, 2016, 2017, we have little dips every year. We're going down every year. And the conversation, again, growth really speaks to your instructional practices. It's not what the students come in the door with. It's not how much they know. It's what you're doing to help that student be able to apply or analyze or compare, contrast, whatever it is that you're asking them to do. So I have a sheet before I talk about our questions. We looked at our growth just by learning community, and I had this great embarrassing moment. I didn't want to share it with you because I didn't want to relive it. However, I walked into a principal's meeting and they posted the growth by our learning community and each school, okay? And so when we came in, it was just there for everybody to see. It was awesome that we were in the last place, okay? And so I will say having that piece has really been probably the biggest motivator out of all the different data conversations that I've had with them, to show them that we are in last place. It also gave me a chance to say, I don't believe that there's any other teacher in this learning community that teaches better than you or is any smarter than you are. We're just not focusing on the right work. And so that led me basically into 2 questions. A lot of literacy tonight, but I wanted to focus on that because that's really been a bulk of our conversation. What does our instruction look like from a reading standpoint, the balanced literacy components? Are we doing them? No, we're not, but that's not my question. So my question is, we looked at 2 different programs. We are a Lucy Calkins, we do writing units of study K through 5. Okay, does everybody know what Lucy Calkins writing units of study? Have you guys heard of it? Okay, awesome. So writing is K through 5. Reading, this year we only had K, 1, and 4th grade, okay, they implemented. And really after doing the writing for 2 years, they really just wanted to try it. They're like, can we please try it? Anytime you have a teacher wanting to try, and we've been having this conversation for a minute, I'm like, yes, let's try it. I'm not sure about all the resources because she is pretty expensive to implement from the library standpoint, right? But we will work together and we'll try to figure it out, so we went for it, okay? So that leaves me with grades 2, 3, and 5 doing guided reading. So it's half and half, right? Works pretty good. So my first question was, how does the implementation of Lucy Calkins reading units of study impact the student growth in kindergarten, 1st, and 4th, okay? And of course, my second question is, how does guided reading impact our student growth for 2nd, 3rd, and 5th grade reading? So the components of Lucy Calkins reading, there's basically 5. You've got a mini lesson, okay, which is roughly about 5 to 10 minutes. You've got independent reading time, which is really about 20 minutes. And while that is happening, you could have individual or small groups happening at the same time, okay? You also have a shared time, which really looks like you may have been conferencing with some small groups, or maybe you're doing the individual work and you've been working with the students specifically on a strategy. And if you see like a trend or something that's happening, or there's a student that's doing something really, really well, the teacher might stop where she is and just stand up and have a moment where she's sharing what she's seeing that's really working and what's really going well. It's a great opportunity to give students some pats on the back and encourage them in their work. I know that kids really love to hear that positive feedback, so I love seeing that. The closing conversations, really kind of lends to the same. Guys, I've had a great time today looking at your reading and what you're marking in your book. You're really becoming those avid readers. I saw you finding those emotions of your characters, something like that, just kind of summarizing what she's seen and the work that they've been doing on an individual basis. And then there's a read aloud component. So really allowing students to hear you read fluently, hearing those intonation and those tones. And it's pretty much like that every day, okay? So how does that compare to the guided reading, which I know we're all, familiar with? It certainly does have its fluency components as well. There's a book intro where you whisper and you do your silent reading and make sure that the students are kind of still working on their fluency, and you might be working with someone as you hear them doing that. There's a comprehension discussion, and that could be whole group, that could also be in your small group time. There's strategy instruction that you talk about, what reading strategy are you using, and the word work and the writing. So when you look at the actual components of guided reading, it looks to kind of capture more of that balanced literacy component just in the structure that is designed versus, the Lucy Calkins piece where you're looking to marry those things and make sure that you have time to do it, okay? The other thing is with the guided reading, the recommended time is about 60 minutes or so. With Lucy Calkins, it's like 90, okay? So it's a larger jump, and you don't necessarily have that time in your schedule. We all have the same amount of time in our day, but just keeping that in mind as we look at our data, okay? So there are basically two conclusions on text and complexity and learning to read. Increasing the complexity of text is the best way to increase reading achievement, and that's recommended by the CCSS, which I did not write the acronym out, so I wish I could tell you. And it lacks a base in available evidence from research. And number two, a number of research studies have shown that text used for instruction that can be read with at least 95% accuracy produce greater gains in harder text. So sometimes, or what I was seeing in classrooms, that teachers were wanting to push students because we're high achievers, right? And they want to push them beyond their text, but they're really not ready to go beyond their text. And so we're not seeing the gains really because we're not finding that just right fit book, okay? So we wanted to work on that. Something else that Equanta said in 2006, guided reading provides students with focused instruction at their specified level, increasing each student's overall reading ability. Its purpose is to meet the varying instructional needs of all students in the classroom, to teach students to read increasingly difficult texts with understanding and fluency, to construct meaning while using problem-solving strategies, and understand concepts or ideas not previously encountered, okay? And I think when I think about putting those things together in a guided reading, and we're doing it with fidelity, it certainly has the components of meeting students where they are in the right direction. Stavancic said, matching readers to text supports growth in reading. Research indicates that when readers spend a great deal of time reading appropriate text, they will become fluent, acquire more words, and exponentially increase their skills. So one of the things that Lucy Calkins does during that block of time that's a little bit different from what I see in the guided reading time is students reading for a long period of time. Typically in guided reading, you might say the student gets to read their book for maybe 15 minutes, maybe, out of that block of time. We say 20 minutes of reading at least with Lucy Calkins, but if you have that 90-minute block time, they are reading for 30 to 35. I mean, they are just reading their books. And when I go into those classrooms to see how those students are interacting with their text, they're not just reading. I got first graders with yellow sticky notes writing out synonyms for emotions. I have kindergartners that are marking things, trying to become an avid reader where they're just doing the same work. So it's just amazing to see the conversations that they can have, and also talking about the strategy that they're using to sound out their words. They can just have a completely different conversation, okay? So, as you can tell, I'm really excited about what I see in the classroom, but let's see. Not quite ready for the data, so let me talk about the coaching and the recommendations just a little bit. So for Lucy, there was a couple things we wanted to put in place, okay, to make sure that I was monitoring some things. We wanted to make sure that teachers participated in a cohort that was provided by the county. And essentially what happened is before each unit, the county provided an opportunity for teachers to go and plan out their lesson. They were meeting with other teachers in their specific grade level that were implementing the same thing, and they planned their unit. They got a chance to talk to an expert ask some questions and make sure they really felt good about going into that unit. I also had a consultant that we purchased for the school year. We started off with writing, so when we added the reading piece, she actually supported that as well and did some work with them on how to conference with students and how to build their strategy groups versus their guided reading group. Teachers were focusing on their mini lesson and developing their conferencing tools. So one of the main components of Lucy Calkins is being able to give students meaningful feedback while they're working with them. So not just saying, good job, do you need any help, but talking to them about, okay, what is the reading strategy you're using right now? What is your goal? So that they're tracking their goal and giving the students some responsibility, but also encouraging them with, okay, last time we met, this is what we talked about. I'd love to hear that in your meeting right now. So it is very intentional and it's very personalized for that particular student. Teachers were also administering FastBridge as the benchmark assessment, which is done in the fall, the winter, and then again in the spring. And that's kind of the tool that I used to kind of see if there was any growth, okay? For guided reading, teachers completed a survey on the components of balanced literacy for us just to get an idea of, do you need any professional development? Not to assume that just because it has been a previous practice and something we've talked about, do you really know how to do it with fidelity? And the answer was no. So with that, our grade level CST conducted some observation and provided explicit feedback on guided reading, and they also went into the classrooms to do some model teaching, to do some coaching, and to help support them. So Lucy had the consultant, and our guided reading groups had our CST. They also did some model lessons and provided, I just said that, co-teaching opportunities, and that could be by request or recommendation. So I might go in to do an observation, but if I saw something, I might ask that CST to go in and provide some coaching for that particular teacher. They also administer the FastBridge benchmark assessment 3 times a year, okay? So I gave each table, I can give your table one, but because I want you to jump on the group if you want to. Most tables have a sheet of paper, and I'd love for you to just kind of look at what you have here. So FastBridge is over here, and it is 2nd, 3rd, and 5th grade. This is guided reading, and this is from fall to winter, their growth. Spring is in process, so I couldn't use their scores for now. And this is Lucy Calkins, and this is the growth from fall to winter. So on your piece of paper with the people at your table, I'd love for you guys to come up with one notice and one wonder. So what you notice and what you wonder. Only like 30 seconds. Yeah, so I'll give you 30 seconds to quickly talk to somebody at your table just to see what you notice and what you wonder. This is guided reading, and that's Lucy Calkins. That's the first one, guided reading. Okay, really quickly, just for the sake of time, do I have a group that's willing to share what their notice and what their wonder was?
Why is Lucy Calkins going down? That's what we noticed.
Okay.
And true enough, but that's pretty much all of them. And then FastBridge, they start lower, but they seem to improve, but then they don't.
Okay, I'm sorry. I did not do a good job telling you how to read the chart. Okay, so this is 2nd, 3rd, and 5th.
Okay, well then, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
2nd, 3rd, and 5th
Right.
with the
Okay.
different colors. And
Okay.
these are the percentiles of growth. Please forgive me. So 0 to 19% is what they grew, 20 to 29%, 30 to 84, and 85 to above. And that's 2nd, 3rd, and 5th grade from fall to winter. Sorry about that. Oh, that might change your notice.
Yeah.
However, what I noticed, because I was super excited about what I was seeing in the classroom, didn't necessarily translate to the growth here in FastBridge. And the teachers implementing guided reading actually grew more than the students did in the Lucy Calkins reading.
What year of Lucy Calkins is this?
So for reading, it's 1. Right. Okay. And so, in addition to that, again, grade levels implementing, so what we found, that the grade levels implementing the guided reading showed the higher growth. Teachers implementing the Lucy Calkins are still super passionate about the practice, and do believe, regardless of what the data is showing, that it is what's best for our students. What we know is this particular school year, I think I mentioned earlier, we did not have the $80,000 to invest in the libraries by the time we decided to actually say that we wanted to do this, right? And so we also conducted peer reviews, and the teachers that were guided reading and went to see Lucy Calkins also want to implement the Lucy Calkins reading units of studies, even though their growth right now is higher. We believe that having the resources, of course, next year, and making sure that every classroom is equipped with their libraries, making sure that we continue our training and have the support will actually yield the growth that we're looking to do. The first year is always difficult. I think some of the other principals have definitely prepared me for that. And something in the fourth grade that we realized when it came to the milestones, and Lucy does build in a band or a unit for preparing for assessments, they started freaking out a little bit because you know, you're teaching a little bit different, and you're used to teaching the thing that you need to teach in order to prepare them for the assessment. So they kind of abandoned the practice a little bit, and they actually have the lowest growth scores, fourth grade does. So it's really evident in their practice. You can tell that something happened and shifted with them. So we're going to continue to discuss the data. We're waiting for the spring to come back. We'll look at that with the PLCs. We'll do peer reviews again, and that's just a practice the teachers really enjoyed having, but we will have those set up even at the first of next year. They asked if we could make sure we had them for the first semester. Doing the part-time reading and writing instructional coach to support the implementation, reallocate our funds for the Lucy piece, and then analyze our data. So, you know, I think data is a big piece of it, and we do need to look at that. I think 1 year is a little too soon to say that, but you certainly can tell in the conversations of students and teachers what the impact can ultimately be. And there are like 2 schools that have been doing it for 3 years now, and their growth and their students' reading and writing has completely changed what they're doing. So we just got some more coaching and support to do. So my references. Any questions?
Are you able to send any of your teachers, like, to the Teachers College to train to do?
I can. I've been trying to get just even my coach to go. Like, I'm trying to get them in. I've been, which was an amazing experience. And we're even trying to do the Saturday session and set up our own thing to go Thursday and Friday and just have Saturday there. So we're working on kind of a couple of different things to make sure they can see it. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's great.
We noticed an interesting thing when our school began to kind of go whole hog into Lucy Calkins about 5 years ago, and then we started spreading into the reading, is the teachers love